God damn. I have no idea if you can hear me at this point, but we're gonna continue anyway. Walking around the streets of Gurgaon today. It is a beautiful day actually. 30 degrees, sun is shining, birds are tweeting, cars are honking, but that's okay. Oh shit. And the sky is blue today. Usually it's like full of pollution, but today, look at this. That is beautiful, the sky is blue. It's been 6 months since I arrived in India. I arrived in March of this year, 2024. And I always get asked, what's the big differences between living in India, living in Australia? And to be honest with you, it's a completely different experience. There's almost nothing that's the same, to be honest with you, which is unbelievable. And it makes sense why people moving from India to Australia, but more commonly, people moving from India to Australia experience so much culture shock. I feel like I'm about to get run over, but it's okay, we're gonna manage. A lot of culture shock when you move either way. And yeah, people always ask me, what are the key differences, or what's so different? Why are you even staying there if it's so different, you know? And I think firstly, the living conditions are completely different. The quality of life, the standard of living is pretty much completely different in terms of hygiene, in terms of cleanliness on the roads, on the streets, these sorts of things. It's very different. In Australia, everything's more or less immaculate in most parts of the country. You know, of course, there's areas that's not so well kept, but in India, there's a lot of pollution pretty much everywhere. Of course, there's cities and areas in the country that are very clean and pristine, but I'm spending a lot of time in Delhi NCR where it's not so clean. A lot of pollution, and that can get to you, you know? You're breathing in this thick air a lot. Namaste. And I mean, even, you're talking about quality of life, standard of living. In Australia, you can drink the toilet water. I can drink shower water. Here, it's like I kind of prevent any water from entering my mouth unless it's filtered water. And so it's a big difference in that sense as well. Culturally, it's hugely different. The cultures, there's almost nothing similar between kind of broader Australian culture and Indian culture. Of course, there's Indian communities and local communities there that share similar characteristics. For example, I'm half Lebanese, and the Lebanese culture is actually relatively similar to the Indian culture in many ways, but in terms of the broader Australian culture, very, very different. Mostly, I think, comes down to the fact that in India, it's so much about family, so much about community, so much about the reputation of those families and your family name and your brand as a community, as a family. The caste system still exists here, whether people say it does or it doesn't, definitely does. Whereas in Australia, it's more individualistic, People move out of home 16, 18 years old, 20 years old, and just kind of fend for themselves. It's a very different community, very different culture. In India, it's completely common to just stay home until you're married, Even when you are married, your whole family comes and stays with you, especially if you're the groom. Your family comes and lives with you. Your parents come and live with you. And so the culture is really completely different in that sense as well. Then we talk about things like weather. I mean, this is the thing about India. India is just so intense. I feel like Australia is just mild in pretty much all ways in terms of culturally, spiritually, temperature-wise, food, hygiene. Australia's just mild. It's easy to be content in Australia. In India, it's like everything's extreme. Everything is extreme. The culture, like we've spoken about, is quite extreme, at least for someone like me from Australia, used to a more mild cultural experience. Temperature can get really extreme. I mean, we hit 50 degrees one day earlier this year, and then went through months where it was just 40s every day. And then the standard of living, the quality of living, the constant noise, we're in a quiet neighborhood right now, and you can hear the beeping, the traffic, the noise. It's full on. Living in India is very full on, whereas in Australia, it's easier to get away a little bit, to find some peace and silence. I find in India it's quite difficult to find that. Another huge difference for me, and something I've needed to try and figure out, is the food situation. So in Australia, it's pretty much everything's good quality. You can get any cuisine you want. Another thing that's been a really big challenge for me to adjust to is actually food. I like Indian food, but to be honest with you, it's not my favorite cuisine. And definitely having it every day is a bit too much for me. It can get heavy, it can get oily, especially because I don't have a family that cooks it at home, And so homemade Indian food is a bit more light and delicious and healthy, but when you're getting Indian food from outside, often it can it hits your body pretty hard, to be honest with you. I mean, in Australia, I'm used to having quite clean, protein-rich foods. My diet was high in protein, pretty low in fat, moderate carbs, and here it's just so easy to get caught in the Indian diet, which is really quite high in carbs, quite high in fat, quite low in protein. So for me, it's been a little bit of I don't want to say a struggle, but an adjustment. Let's go with the word adjustment, to find a bit of a balance between local foods, local cuisine, and also cooking myself up some chicken breast, getting some lean protein in my diet. Those are really the big things And then also just I guess the activities, because it's so intense living in India. And then of course, cost of living is extremely different. I mean, I think in general, how I summarize it or how I've noticed it in my expenses, living in India for a similar first world experience to Australia is about a third of the price. So if a particular lifestyle costs you sort of $6,000 in Australia, it might cost you $2,000 in India for a similar experience, which is amazing. But then of course you have the cheap services and facilities, like you get help, cleaners, laundry, all these services are so cheap that it's just so worth your time to invest in those services. And it's absolutely incredible to have that extra help. I save a hell of a lot of time. I don't clean anything anymore. I don't do any dishes. I have amazing helpers in my accommodation that help me with all those sorts of things. And so that cost of living is definitely much different. And of course, you don't have to go a first world quality of life. You can live significantly cheaper in India than Australia. In Australia, you don't really have that option. I think living in Australia anywhere, even a very basic quality of life in Australia is quite expensive. Whereas in India, if you really want to go cheap, you can absolutely go very cheap. You can go very, very cheap. But for an equivalent quality of life to an Australian lifestyle or a first world lifestyle, it's about a third of the price. But then again, in Australia, you earn more money as well. A lot of the locals here are not earning much money, especially when they're fresh out of university or early in their career. They're not making much money. So everything's kind of relative in that sense. People here that the minimum wage in Australia or the minimum salary is $24 an hour, and that's true, but then the cost of living is so much higher that everything becomes relative. But really, it's been a big adjustment moving from Australia to India. Pretty much every aspect of my life is completely different, to be honest with you. The social aspect is completely different. The cost of living is completely different. The quality of my life is different. Although I try to maintain quality of my food and my resting place, my home, my accommodation, I definitely invest in those to make sure that I'm feeling safe and secure, which is really, really important to me. And then also I'm getting the proper nutrients I need. I'm trying to work out a lot. I found a really great gym here, which is fantastic. That's, pretty much equivalent to the quality in Australia, which is great for me, really important part of my life. And so I think I tried to identify what are the key areas of my life that, whether I'm in India or Australia, are critically important to me, which, is that having a great home that I love to come home to, having a place that I feel like I can rest at night, great nutrition, a great gym, a place to exercise, keep my body and mind healthy. God damn. I have no idea if you can hear me at this point, but we're going to continue anyway. Those are the key things. Those are the key things for me. The rest, the cultural adaptation, the drinking water that you have to get from the filter, you can't just get from the tap, all these sorts of things. The pollution in the air pretty much all year, especially in the upcoming October, November, December period after Diwali. The pollution gets crazy in Delhi. And so I might have to escape back to Australia for a little bit in that period of time. There's rubbish on the roads, there's dust, there's dirt, pretty much everywhere. This is, actually, what happens? I get my clothes back from the laundry, right? Clean clothes, and they have dust on it. And there's just spots of dust, especially if you don't pack it away immediately. There's just dust. It's unbelievable. Everything gets so dusty so fast and you can't help it. There's nothing you can do about it. So, adjusting to those sorts of small things, perhaps it sounds small, but definitely takes some time to adjust. But honestly, moving to India has been one of the most incredible experiences of my life. As you can tell, it's an intense experience. There's a lot of intensity around the lifestyle here. I mean, just look at this. It's just complete chaos all the time. And this is light traffic, really. This is very light traffic. We're in the middle of the workday, so pretty much everybody's at work. But we've still got noise, chaos. Adjusting to the lifestyle definitely takes some time. Getting my body adjusted. I've had some food poisoning a couple of times. So adjusting to those sorts of things, getting your gut, get that iron gut. You got to get that iron gut all adjusted. And then of course, you leave your home country, you leave your family, you leave your friends. And so that goes without saying that you have to find your social circle. You have to find who's going to be your family, who's going to be your friends while you go on this next adventure. And so for me, it's been lucky to find some absolutely amazing people to fill those voids in my life and to build some amazing connections with. And so that's been an absolute blessing as well. It made the whole journey worthwhile, to be honest with you. I think that's again one of the pillars of a happy lifestyle or a happy life is having good people around you. And so no matter where I am in the world, I know I've got to have, or make sure I have a safe place to live, a place where I can exercise, good quality food that I can eat and nourish my body, and have fantastic people that I can love and share journeys with and experiences with. And for me, those are the key things. Everything else I can adjust to and learn to cope with, or learn to love and enjoy as well, And that's kind of what I've been doing on my journey so far in India. It's been an amazing, amazing 6 months. Honestly, the lifestyle is completely different from the lifestyle in Australia. But hey, it's one of the reasons why you do something like this. You bite the bullet and you go have an amazing adventure and you explore the world and you explore what the world has to offer. It's a little bit outside of your comfort zone and away from home. And it's been an absolutely magical 6 months. And I'm excited for the 6 months to come in the winter season. We're going to get some more mild temperatures, which I am definitely excited for. I hope you enjoyed this more casual check-in. I enjoy doing these, walking and talking, getting to explore the streets, get some friends in the background, and enjoy that little insight into my first 6 months into living in India, living in Delhi, NCR. If you enjoyed, make sure you click that subscribe button right now, and I will see you in the next video.